Happy podcasting day, everybody. Gentlemen, happy NFC West leading Hawkscast.net podcast day. I'm feeling great. I'm excited. Football is very, very good to Seahawks fans right now.
Yeah, feeling really good.
Woohoo.
What fun. But seriously, though, like really.
It hasn't been this fun, even with winning records in November, for quite a while.
Well, the thing is, the way that they're winning, it's very different from what I think we as Seahawk fans have been like accustomed to in regards to like how we win games. And the way that they're doing it, it is like peak Seahawk. Like this is the way that they're winning is no different from like the peak of the strongest Seahawks in their championship runs. Like, I can't think of this style of game that we've had, especially over these last 3 weeks, that have been anything like that in the past 4 to 6 years with the Seahawks.
No, it's been a while since it felt so complete on both sides of the ball.
So here's the question. So the game was close. Seahawk mistakes made the game closer than it probably should have been, at least from the score. Were you concerned when it was 13-13 and it looked like if this was the time where the expected Geno facade was going to crumble, is that what you thought was going to happen? Or did you think like, oh, no. I believe in this team now. I think that they've got it.
It to me, it felt like you said, that it was our own mistakes that were keeping the game close, and that at some point the dam was going to break and we were going to start scoring some points. So I wasn't particularly concerned. No, not that I was like certain we were going to win, but I was pretty confident.
Ross, what about you? You've been a fan longer than both of us, so you've seen the worst of the Seahawks, where it's like, oh well, it's a 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern game. We're just gonna lose, even though this was a home game. Like, what that kind of like classic Seahawk trauma has been like. Is that something you felt in this game, or even like just a dip in the toe of that kind of concern?
To be honest, not.
Why is that?
It's weird. It's a little bit contagious. Maybe like so many years of winning has made me psychologically be prepared to accept positive things can happen. like things can be good and things can go your way. And I gotta give credit to Russell Wilson for some of that. I mean, a lot of that. Like, I was conditioned for years that if you're losing in the fourth quarter and it comes down to the last drive, well, you essentially already lost. But then it was reversed. And so this game, I don't even know if it's made me Pollyanna-ish, though. I think it's just it's kind of shifted me back towards like objective middle closer. And so this game, like, even when a couple bad things happened, I feel like I was able to, maybe I'm just lying to myself, who knows? But I felt like I was able to sort of understand what was happening. I mean, Tyler Lockett's not going to normally have a Gerald Everett type game.
Yeah.
I mean, like, where he's just like personally going to make us lose no matter what. And that's what he was doing for a while. And without him, like, they don't score even like 7 points. So for me, like, all three facets of the game, even when occasionally a bad play happened. But I felt like, looking at the statistics of it, sort of the probability on each down of winning that down, it looked like we were sort of in control. Barkley was not getting anything done. Will Disley all of a sudden like a turnover-causing machine on special teams. And defense, I mean, special teams player of the week for the NFC, by the way.
Yeah.
And it was just and like they were gonna crowd the box, and like so Geno's become functional, so like when they do that, he makes them pay. And it was obvious from the beginning. Oh, okay, I see. You're gonna go single high. You're gonna put 8 in the box. Cool. Geno's gonna mess you up. Oh, now you're gonna go to cover 2. Okay, well then you just gave up a touchdown. Okay, good job, good, because Ken Walker's gonna take advantage of that. it didn't look like they had answers for us, and I thought we had lots of answers for what they were going to do. We're going to put 6 in the box, but because of where they're placed, it's almost going to feel like 7 to 8 box. So Barkley's going to do nothing. I liked a lot of what they did, and it really felt solid the whole game.
Yeah, I kind of feel as if I'm in a similar vibe that both of you are, in that maybe my expectations for this year have been so tempered that anything that they do now is just kind of like a bonus. I thought they were at a floor, a 6 to 9 win team, and we're already at 5 with half the season left to go. So they can definitely get to my ceiling. They've already surpassed my floor with, 9 more games left to go. And I think because of that, that kind of has helped me feel as if, oh yeah, we're just kind of playing with house money at this point, because anything they do now, we're already better than everyone expected. We're in first place in the division, which is something that I didn't even expect. But they're doing it in a way that is not gimmicky. They're not doing it in a way that things will suddenly feel as if, oh, we're waiting for that one team to just scheme us out of it, and then we won't be able to come back from it. Because they're doing it in a multifaceted way. It's not just that the offense is playing well. It's not just the defense playing well. It's not just special teams making impact. It's all facets in all of these games, especially over the past 3 weeks, that I feel has really made me help to enjoy these games in a way that I don't think that I've felt in a while, which I think has been a lot of fun.
I concur.
Very nice. All right. Well, the Seahawks retained the NFC West lead for another week as they play a tough Giants team that gave them a fight for almost over 3 quarters. The Seahawks responded well in all 3 phases as they ended with a dominant win against a scrappy Giants team. They now try to stay healthy as they return to Phoenix to face a desperate Cardinals team that needs a win to keep their hopes alive in Week 9. This is a Hawkscast.net podcast brought to you by the Hawkscast Forum, and we are going to jump right into topic number 1. Ross, topic number 1, can the Seahawks maintain their lead in the NFC West? We see the Super Bowl reigning champion Rams. They're banged up. They're not playing so great, but they still are the reigning champions until they're not. The Niners made a huge acquisition for Christian McCaffrey. They've really mortgaged their future for him. He is oft injured. They're already on their second quarterback, even though that is Jimmy G. They traded away. They lost their running back, I believe, Jeff Wilson. He was a 49er, and now he's on the Dolphins. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, after they got CMC, that dude's expendable.
And then they've got Debo, but Debo he's already missing a game. So the Cardinals, we'll talk about them later, but they're a team that a lot of people thought would do well. They lost last Sunday, but Hopkins is back and he's putting up great numbers. Can the Seahawks maintain this lead in what some would say is a down year for the NFC West, but still looking competitive with the Niners and the Seahawks and the Rams?
I don't think really the Cardinals and the Rams are really in the conversation anymore. I mean, the Rams aren't that far out, but something's wrong there. I mean, they always say it's hard to maintain or whatever, but it's usually the loser of the Super Bowl that really struggles to come back. Not the winner, but I don't. To be honest, the Rams struggles really, 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 really perplex me. I don't. So I'm never surprised if they're going to turn it around, but I think they've they faltered a little bit coming out of the gate instead of the too far behind. So it's just a matter of, can we keep a lead over San Francisco? And they manhandled us the first game, but that's not what our team is anymore, and that's not what their team is anymore. So it's really an open question for me. I'm really interested in that question. Are we? You just said we're competitive with them. We look competitive with them. I don't know if we do, because I don't. Again, we played them once. They pretty much destroyed us, and the game was never in doubt. And it was still like watching this last Giants game in reverse. I never really doubted, even when even when the Giants got an occasional good play, I never doubted that we were going to dominate the game eventually. Same thing with the San Francisco game. Even if we did a couple things right here and there, overall, I was like, wow, we're playing a better team. But we've made some adjustments, and some of them are not immediately obvious. Like there are some of the obvious ones, but some of them are just like, Pete Carroll himself was pretty cryptic about some of it. Just says, this coaching staff made some adjustments, and the players bought in on it, and things are going well. Some of it shows up when you watch the film, but some of it's just like, what? Why is that? Why can they tackle now?
Right.
So I don't know. I'm interested to know. I am curious to know if we can. I am cautiously optimistic that as we continue to grow and our rookies gain experience and other people who gain confidence, that we'll be able to maintain. We'll be able to keep up the pace. And with the NFC East looking as it does, there's not going to be a lot of extra wild cards around. So,
yeah, at this rate, it's going to be a team from a wild card is going to come from the West, the East, and probably two from the East.
Two from the East, and so there's one wild card left. We've got to get that one if we can't stay in first. So, if we do fall off the pace, we can't fall off by much. Hopefully, we never have to worry about it. Hopefully, we just take this one game lead and pace them, and maybe their nagging injuries and nagging of a quarterback kind of start to show up a bit more. I mean, CMC is not going to throw for a touchdown, run for a touchdown, and catch a touchdown every week. We can hope.
We can hope.
The funny thing is like I think it was a dumb acquisition, to be honest. Like, yeah, he's a really good guy, and well, look at all those things he did. Yes, you know what? Like, somebody else could have run that touchdown in, or somebody else could have thrown the touchdown, or somebody else could have, caught a touchdown. I mean, I don't know what he actually adds in the Shanahan offense. Like, yeah, Shanahan, look what he could do. He's the ultimate Shanahan running back. But but Shanahan could do a lot of those things with any running back. He could do it with Zeb.
Well, probably not.
Well, close.
I would definitely fly out to Santa Clara to watch Zeb play for the Niners. I wouldn't root for them to win, but I'd root for Zeb to do well.
I'd kill myself.
Well, hey,
you know what I'm saying?
So you can choose any number. What would your number be, Zeb? What's your number for your jersey?
17.
Ooh, that's a good number. That's my number 2 now.
Oh, Mudbone.
I was going to say, you're going to go with a David Craig, huh?
Damn right I am.
Zeb, David Craig.
What about you? What do you think? Can the Seahawks maintain their lead in the NFC West? They have a 1-game lead right now in the standings over the Niners, who are 4-4. Seattle's 5-3. Can they do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ross is exactly right. I think the key to us at this point is staying healthy because, and I think it's important that this team doesn't lose that underdog feeling, that chip on their shoulder, that everybody counted them out. I think that's definitely been a great motivator, and hopefully, I don't think there's any doubt that Pete Carroll will be able to stay in their heads about that. But yeah, I mean, we're not gonna win out. So it kind of comes down to, I think the Niners are gonna continue to scratch and claw and win some games. Again, they're not gonna win out. So now that we got that step up, that one step ahead, we just have to try to maintain it. I think I agree for the most part that Arizona and the Rams are pretty much out of it unless there's an amazing turnaround, but it doesn't look like, no signs point to that happening. So I think it's about staying healthy, staying grounded, keeping that attitude of trying to be world beaters, and just trying to hold off the Niners. And I think, though that first game was a disaster, they really whipped our ass despite the score not looking that awful. I think the next game is going to be a different story. And if we can get that a game or two more up on them, I think I think we pretty much it's. I'm not going to say it's in the bag, but I think we have a really good chance of maintaining that lead on them. So I'm definitely optimistic.
Yeah, I echo your sentiments about it. It comes down to health. There's a lot about this team that I feel is very encouraging, especially in the manner in which they're winning, the manner in which all facets of their game is working, and kind of how Pete seems to be resonating with this, this rebuilt team. But that health is a key component because we've already had two key injuries that if we had those guys healthy, I think we'd have better than a 5-3 record. We would have seen our defense made an improvement quicker if we had a Jamal Adams on the field. Not to say that Ryan Neal isn't playing great right now, but Jamal Adams seems to be a guy that they continue to want to build around and really make as a focal point because he is so dynamic. And also Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny had a really great year so far until his injury. Even though they didn't win every single game with him, I think having a strong running dynamic with Kenneth Walker and with Rashad Penny would have just been a huge benefit to what the Seahawks want to do, even though I think Kenneth Walker has been great so far. My biggest concern is the Cardinals and the Rams finding their way. Not that I think that the Cardinals are a great team. I think they're definitely flawed. I think Cliff Kingsbury is kind of an okay coach. This is the first year where he's actually started bad at the beginning of the year. Usually he starts great for the first 8 to 9 games and then just falls flat in the final 7 to 8. We're seeing him struggle at the very beginning of the year with his team, with his quarterback. And when you look at what they're trying to do and the team they've built, I feel that they've got a lot of flaws. I don't think they're particularly strong in any facet of the game. And I think Kyler Murray is having a huge step back year where he's not good. He's not someone that if I had the choice between top 10 quarterbacks, he wouldn't be anywhere close to the one that I would choose, especially with Geno playing so well. So my concern is more about those teams, especially the Rams, finding their way more so than the Seahawks just all of a sudden not being able to do it anymore. But I think they can, and I think the fact that we can even talk about this, heading into Week 9, is a somewhat, Pete Carroll miracle, because I don't think any of us would have predicted we would be front-running the NFC West, halfway through the season. And the fact that we can even talk about that, every win, every close game that gets them just one more step closer to the playoffs, then you get to start dreaming big. You got to start thinking, if we get hot in the playoffs, if this team can be hot and playing well and gelling and healthy into the playoffs, what damage could they do? How far could they take it if this is the type of game that they're going to play? We're not seeing huge deficiencies in what they're trying to do. They're not perfect, but there's not huge holes where it's they can't run the ball or they can't pass the ball. They have no pass rush. They can't tackle right now. Their special teams is really suspect. We're not seeing that, especially in that recent game. The biggest mistakes that the Seahawks made were all self-inflicted. A drop touchdown catch, a missed opportunity, a fumble deep in our own red zone. Those are all things that we haven't traditionally seen a lot, especially this year. So I'm really excited what that means. And if we can get another win, it's just one more step and one more level of excitement that we can build towards.
Yeah, I think one other thing, which we all kind of alluded to a little bit, is, and if we didn't have Pete Carroll, this would be much more of a concern. But I think being able to stay playing at this high of an emotional level that they have been all season so far, especially since things started to come together, they got to keep that. They got to stay high like that for the rest of the season, especially if and when it comes to the playoffs. But I think we have the exact coach to do that. So we don't want to see the energy die down because they start to feel like, we got this, we're better than everybody thought. We need to maintain that. It's very important.
Yeah, agreed. Final thoughts about the NFC West and the Seahawks. All right. Let's move it to topic number 2. Zeb, topic number 2 how has this team seen their offensive scoring increase and their defensive opponent scoring decrease? So if we look at weeks 1 through 5, they had a 2-3 record. They had a minus 27 point differential. But now in weeks 6 through 8, they're 3-0 and they have a plus 38 point differential. What has caused this offense to really explode and for this defense to just tighten up and play solid?
Yeah, I mean, it really speaks to how drastically and how suddenly things kind of switched. I want to also mention that we actually have a positive point differential for the first time this season, besides that 1 positive point differential we had after beating the Broncos in week 1. Even though we had a winning record last week, we still had a negative point differential. So to get that switched up, get that shifted, really impressive. It's to see, like you said, to see the offensive output increase at the same time that the defense is allowing less points is pretty awesome. And it just goes to show, the numbers don't lie here. This is what's happened. The team changed 3 weeks ago, drastically on both sides of the ball. I mean, they scored well against the Falcons and the Lions, obviously, and the Saints as well. But it just feels so consistent, and it feels like a different team than it did in, say, week 2 or 3. So, it's awesome. It's great, and hopefully we just can continue to put more space between the points scored and points allowed.
Is there any one element on the offensive or defensive side that you feel has really caused that change?
I don't think much on the offense. I think we saw pretty early what kind of offense this could be, and the fact that we've seen virtually no drop off from Penny to Kenny is great. So we haven't had to worry about that. But it's all about the defense. It's about whatever Pete did, when he went in there and he tinkered a little bit. And I think ultimately what happened is he basically told the players to get out of their heads. Don't think, react. And you can just see the improvement of the defense, getting to the ball quicker, tackling more surely, and just making more plays. So I think the offense was coming along just fine. I think it's really a testament to how much better the defense has gotten over the last 3 weeks.
Ross, what about you? You look at this offense, we've seen how it's, grown and become really stable. Then you look at that defense, and the defense, if you compared what we saw in that Giants game versus what we saw in the Falcons or the Lions game, how is this possible? What has caused this shift?
Well, we're now in the house of Libra. Sorry. I don't think it's one thing. There's something we all talked about early on was we're starting a bunch of rookies, and we're also starting a couple of people who have never been told you're the starter. No. Don't look back. Don't look over your shoulder. You're the starter. So be the starter. And so there was probably some learning curve, and some doubts, but the confidence kicks in, and we're still at the point, so early in the career, when we play on Sunday, that's going to result in 12 and a half more experience than our starting tackles have ever had previously. We're still at that point, right? It's such a huge jump. You're going to have 12% more experience by the end of the game than you had before the game on average. That's a huge thing, You're going to be exposed to that much more stuff. And every time you go out and make a play, it's not like after you've done it for 5 or 10 years or something. Every time that cross lines up against a monster defensive end, an edge defensive end that can dominate games, and he handles his business, his confidence grows a little bit more. And you do that for 8 games, and our offense actually still could probably make some more strides. Geno, for all his, hey, I never had a backup mentality, I was always a starter. Yeah, but let's not kid ourselves that it doesn't make a difference that this year, game one, Pete Carroll said, hey, you won the job. You won the job. You did that. It's yours. You're not on a short leash. Go take us where you want to take us, Geno. And then to play well that first game, that confidence is going to take you places. And every game, you can see the exuberance that Zeb talked about after every game. And I don't think it'd be even hard to maintain it, because that's actually one thing we've always been able to maintain it when things go right on this level. And then on the defense, I think it's clear some adjustments were made. Yeah, partly it's just a simple, hey, you know what, let's simplify this and let's stop thinking too much about that. There's a few other adjustments they've made and a few, I feel like, points of clarification. We talked a lot about Cody Barton and even Brooks early in the season getting swallowed by guards and tackles before they could do their job. And that's not happening as much now. And people, the vitriol aimed at Cody Barton has gone down considerably lately. I mean, nobody thinks he's a star. He's always going to be just a guy plus, maybe. But
he's a guy plus now. He's a guy plus.
Yes. He's a guy, he's a 7.3 instead of a 7, For me, a 7's average, not 5. But, like all of a sudden, like, people seem to understand the scheme a little bit better. The 6 front actually does function as a 7 as far as the offense has to handle it. Mike Jackson is a revelation.
He had a great game.
That dude, did you see his shoes? He wore like Michael Jackson shoes, like the King of Pop shoes.
All of his shoes are Michael Jackson shoes.
The one for last games were spectacular, though. That's the first time I noticed them. I didn't know that. I didn't know he always did that. They were spectacular. But yeah, I mean, like, and he wasn't just out there. Like, that dude's not a rookie either. Like that, but that's just another dude that's never been told, you're our starter. You're the starter. Stop looking behind you. Just play, man. Just play. And he's not just like knocking balls away. That dude's like taking us back to the day of cornerbacks that can tackle hard.
Mike Jackson is playing so well. Sidney Jones got cut because of him.
I can't believe they couldn't find a trade partner. So then we've got Trey Brown coming back as well. Like, where are you going to put him?
Yeah,
because you can't take Mike Jackson off the field now. I also slightly sort of disagree about the Adams thing. I don't know that we aren't better with Ryan Neal out there. I know I'm biased because he's kind of my boy, but
boy got cramped up. He got to drink some more water on the sideline.
Dude, eat the bananas. Eat the bananas.
Get that potassium, man.
Yeah, twice. But still, like, he may not be as elite about certain things as Jamal Adams, but I think it'd be really hard to argue at this point that he's not more well-rounded, that his overall Madden rating isn't higher.
He's just less reckless. He brings a similar energy. Because he does bring that energy, but he just plays a little more disciplined, I think.
Yeah,
I think he's had a particularly really strong year. Like, we've always kind of talked offline and chat saying, oh, he's like a Jordan Babineau. His mistakes look bad, but it's overcompensated because he makes a big play so frequently. Yeah. It's like, wow.
The ball finds him, and you want to have those dudes out there. So I don't know what to do with Jamal next year, but I want Ryan Neal on the field.
Well, Ryan Neal's a free agent, so that's like a thing. Like, this
dude's
is where
getting paid. Like, how much money can we invest? How much more money can we invest in safety?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think I just think that there's a variety of things. And at the end of the day, this is just pure testimony to Pete Carroll, because Pete Carroll.
Oh, you stole my thunder. I was going to go there, and you had to keep going. I should have cut you off. That's my fault.
Why don't you take it from there? Let's talk about Pete Carroll.
I think you have to start and end with Pete Carroll, not only with how this year has gone, But we've seen this story before. It's annoying to see Pete make these adjustments mid-year, and all of a sudden, a big issue all of a sudden corrects itself. Now, that has been maybe a detriment, because you'd like to say, like, why haven't you figured that out at the beginning of the year? We've talked about it. You don't have the guys in camp for as long. You don't have as many practices. You can't play with pads. You can't hit. There's so much more limitation on what a coach can do. But once the season starts, you've got them like fully, and you've got full control. And it comes down to Pete saying, hey, after that San Francisco loss, we're going to open up the playbook. We can't play scared anymore. We're going to play with Geno's full skill set. And a lot of us kind of scoffed at that. Like, I know I did, where it's like, oh, Pete, you're just hyping the train up as usual. Classic Pete, telling everyone they're the best, just making them believe in themselves, trying to play mind games. And we've seen the offense explode. We've seen Geno continue to play at a ridiculously high level. Geno is the talk of the NFL right now when it comes to who is a bigger surprise, and it makes Seattle and Pete and John look like geniuses for letting Russ go to the Broncos and like getting up a huge haul in return. You look at the defense looked like it was made out of Swiss cheese. Like, we had so many holes in our defense. And we thought it was, it's Cody Barton because he doesn't engage well, or he's getting beat at the second level because the guards and the tackles and the fullbacks are like swallowing him up, so he's getting nullified. They're not playing the right safety. They're playing, the wrong guy. They should have had so and so in instead of so and so. But Pete comes in, and in the past it was looked as meddling. Pete's telling his defensive coordinator, telling his assistant head coach, this is how we're going to play. We've seen characteristic change on how this defense is played. And it's not as simple as like, they're just tackling now. It's like, no, even the players have said, no, we're given the ability to just react. We're given a goal. We're saying, do this, do this, do this. And we don't have to react anymore. We don't have to worry about like, what's so-and-so doing behind me? What's my role? It's like, no, everything is so clear. And whether that's Pete just nudging his coaches or giving them that opportunity, a clear-cut change was made, and they really have not looked back. If you use like certain stats like DVOA, which tries to like break down how good a team is, if you compare the Seahawks in the first 4 weeks and these last 4 weeks, it's like night and day. Like, their defense, especially when you take in these last 3 games, they've been on fire. If not for Tyler Lockett's fumble deep in our own red zone, I don't know if the Giants score more than 10 points. They got a gifted 7 because they got the ball at the 2-yard line. And, someone can always fall forward for 2 yards if you give them enough chances. But I don't think that Giants offense was going to be able to score more than 10 points if not for that fumble. And I think you have to credit that defense, and it starts with Pete, because Pete is the one that keeps it all together. He is the reason why we're able to see these drastic shifts, because I feel that he's the one pushing for them. He's the one that sees it, and he's the one to make it happen.
Pete Carroll, the God.
Pete Carroll just turned on the God mode. That's what happened. Final thoughts before we move on?
Let's keep it going.
All right.
Is there ageism? Was that part of the evaluation of Carroll then? Because last year nobody said like he could do this. Nobody said last year like, well,
there were so many people, even like big Pete fans, I think, questioned his ability.
But is it pure ageism though? Is it, if Carroll last year had been 50 years old or 45 years old, would last year's struggles and situations have looked different to people?
I think what we run into is the fact that he's been on the team for so long. Like, you look at a Bill Belichick, you look at a Mike Tomlin, they've been on their respective teams longer than Pete has, and they're going through some pretty big woes right now. They're pretty inconsistent, and, Tomlin's playing with a rookie quarterback, so there's obvious growing pains there. But I think you would say, hey, this guy's been here for 10 plus years, 12 years, 14, 15, 16, 17 years. There is a point where the message could get a little stale. And we've even heard that from Seattle players, where Pete felt stale. His message didn't resonate in the same way. that we are seeing it resonate now. So I don't know if that's ageist, but I do think it's just due to the length of time that he's been with the team that it does come into play.
All right.
Well, let's move on to topic number 3. This is the Hawkscast Corner. So go to hawkscast.net. There's a topic about Geno right now. And Ross, I want to know, can you risk not extending Geno Smith right now? He has done nothing but throw touchdowns, be smart with the football. He's made great plays. He converted such a big third down that Pete Carroll assaulted the ref on the sideline. That's the only way you can explain it. He just Pete was so excited he converted that 3rd and 8 that he just shoved the ref and get out of my face. We're winning this game. Get out of here. Can you risk not extending?
It's the second time Pete Carroll's been called for that penalty in his career.
Can you risk not extending Geno?
I mean, it depends on what lesson you're learning from this year. Are you learning the lesson that Geno Smith, in fact, was totally elite from, say, 3 or 4 years ago, and nobody knew? Nobody knew. Even last year when he was given 3 starts, he hit it. You can see it. But all of a sudden, this year, Geno's elite. And so now that we know that he's elite, you better go sign him. And I think it was 2 weeks ago, it might have been 3 weeks ago, I was offering him $12 million. And I'm now offering him $24 million. He doubled his price. Okay, Geno, there you go. 24 a year for probably 2, but I can do 3. But there's a possibility that you can read this another way. You can read this that not every quarterback can do it, but you can find the right quarterback who can do it, who has the right strengths, and you can say that the Pete Carroll philosophy of offense lends itself to making a mediocre or slightly above average or good quarterback look elite. If Pete Carroll, we were just talking about the ageism a second ago, and he's an old man, everybody says he can't be dedicated to the run, but Pete's done the early and actual real analytics. And just run the ball a whole bunch. And then what happens? Then they, like I was talking about earlier, then they have to go to 8 men in the box. They go to 8 men in the box. Then as long as you've got a competent or good quarterback, maybe with 8 in the box, who he can take advantage. You just need somebody who can take advantage of that. And then if they go and if they adjust to that, then they go, okay, well, they're going to go 2 safeties now. Too high. Fine, go back to the run and just run. Like Pete Carroll's system, he doesn't have his philosophy lends itself perhaps to decent or good quarterbacks looking elite. And if that's the case, and by the way, look at Russell Wilson when he left our philosophy. He sure looked elite in Seattle. We all argued he was elite. I did. I agreed. Even when I wanted to get rid of him, I didn't say he wasn't elite. I just said, I think there's other ways of building a team. And you guys were yeah, he's elite, right? You got to stick with him. Sam kept telling me, it's so hard to find a franchise quarterback. You got to have the franchise quarterback. You got to be able to Peyton Manning way. But he left, and he doesn't have that philosophy anymore, and he doesn't look the same. People overreacting to the last 5 minutes of the last game. And by the way, when he did look like elite again in the last 5 minutes of the Denver Bronco game, it was by taking back the Pete Carroll philosophy. He was moving around, he went for the deep ball after establishing the run. So, I don't know, because I'm wondering if there are a handful of other people out there that if Geno's going to get too greedy, we can say to some of these other retread quarterbacks who've been around, that if I put you in our offense, can you do it? I don't think we have to pay Geno elite money anyway. Because although what he's doing now earns him a certain paycheck on paper, I doubt very many teams are out there that It's like going like, oh, well, he's done it for a year. I'm all in with Geno. I doubt it. So I don't know. I can see the case either, and I don't want to gamble with either. So I'm willing to pay a certain amount today in the bye week, for example, maybe. Excuse me. Suddenly I have a cough. So I don't necessarily want to gamble, but I think you can say, look at Russell Wilson. So if Geno moved on, is Geno going to suck? Is it not the system? Is it not? I keep saying system. Is it not the philosophy that helps? Is it not the dedication to the run game? The deep strikes after they adjust? Is that not a big, huge part of it? So I really respect Geno. I don't want to take the chance. I don't want to pay him $35 million. I don't want to pay him $40 million. I think we just proved you don't have to. I'm actually curious of the whole deal with Drew Lock is that Drew Lock is here meant to be like I talked about a couple weeks ago. Like it used to be the old philosophy is that you had to be in a system 5 years to learn it. And that's back when systems were easier. So maybe the idea with Drew Lock is like keep that dude around, and then when Geno's put out to pasture in 3 or 4 years, that's when Drew Lock starts. Maybe that is our quarterback of the future, but just not the future we thought. It was the far future. I don't know, man. I don't know. I can see it from both angles.
All right.
And the Wilson example makes me really, really cautious.
I think that's fair. It's a lot of money, and it does set you back. But Zeb, if you're John Schneider, do you ring up Geno's agent and say like, "Hey, let's put pen to paper. Let's get a deal"?
Well, okay, so I think that Ross has the right of it for the most part. Is Geno performing at this level because that's how good Geno is now? Or is this speaking more to the system / philosophy that's been put in place and that he's just willing to work within it where Russell wasn't? I don't know. But I think I have a pretty good hunch that Pete and John have a good idea of what that is. So I think that they know what they want to do. Or if they don't right now, they will very soon.
Sorry, can I say one more tiny thing just as a comment because I wanted Zev to sort of riff on this as well. In the preseason, Geno didn't look like this, so that's something. So Drew Lock didn't look like this, but Geno didn't either. So if Drew Lock was playing in the regular season, what would he look like?
Right.
So I want to hear Zev.
I imagine that the preseason, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. You don't game plan. Preseason essentially is your chance to get the rust off and get back into the swing of things. So, if you don't look great in the preseason, that's at least experience, right? So it's hard to say that. I don't know. It may be like what you're talking about with Drew Lock being the quarterback of the not so immediate future, but maybe 2 or 3 years down the line. It's definitely a possibility. Who knows? Again, we won't know until we see it. We can't, based on what we've seen from Drew Lock, just like with Geno, we can't assume he's going to be great. But Geno sure does make a pretty good argument for the circumstances, for the philosophy in the system. I think that if Geno is going to be extended, it's probably going to happen during the bye week. And I don't know what the numbers look like.
Sam, you keep track of this stuff better than I do. Do the Seahawks ever extend people like in bye? I feel like they always extend people in the summer.
Yeah, so the Seahawks have had a history of signing people before camp. So Russ, Bobby, DK, Richard, Earl, they've all been extended in the offseason. Seattle has.
But in this case, it's a little different because his contract's over, right?
Correct. And I think that's the thing where you have to look and say, like, okay, if we don't get a deal, we can always franchise tag Geno, but the franchise tag for 2023 is estimated at $31.5 million.
Yeah, I do that.
I think that
so just real
these
quick,
circumstances are a little different.
Ross,
Go ahead.
If it comes to it, you would not franchise Geno. Zeb, where are you on $31.5 million if it comes to franchising Geno? Yes or no?
If that's what we have to do, sure.
Okay, so it should be on the table. Ross, are you saying it's on the table or completely no?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so
I have one tiny last thing because I want to get Zeb's and yours comments both on this because it really is relevant to this conversation and what it could possibly mean as far as how Pete Carroll and John Schneider look at it. Now, we can say like Pete Carroll kind of knew or suspected Geno could do this because how he talked him up. But what does it mean that he signed him to a 1-year contract? Like, that seems to put yourself in a weird position. Because if you think he could do it and he comes in and he does it, now the next year he's holding all the cards. Does that mean he didn't think he could do it? Does it mean he thinks he can do it, but he thinks other people could do it? What does it mean to this conversation that they signed him to a 1-year contract?
I think you could look at it in a couple ways, and Zeb, I'll let you answer it as well. One could be that Geno says, I want to prove it deal because I know I can make more money because I'll have a full year of starting these games. I believe in myself. I believe I'm going to do well, and I don't want to get locked into a bad second year and hold out. I want the 1-year deal, and I'm going to get paid out in year 2. That's the way that I think Geno would have approached it, or at least that's how I would have if I were in a similar situation.
I mean, I think that makes sense. At the dollar amount that they were offering him, would he want to sign a multi-year deal, knowing that he's going to get a chance to go out there and start and prove to people what he knows about himself? I think it makes a lot of sense for him to say, no, let's just do the 1 year like this. Next year, I'm getting paid. I think my main point is that I think that whatever we're seeing and whatever we all believe, I think Pete and John know. They know whether they need to keep Geno to play at this level or if they think they can replace him. So we'll have our answer when they do or don't extend him, right?
Yeah. All right. Here's a shocker, Ross. I know you're ready for this. Yes, you have to extend Geno. Maybe not like now, maybe not in the bye week, but you have to think of realistically, $31.5 million is his base. You have showed already that you're willing to double his salary after 2 weeks.
Yeah, but that's my cap.
I know,
Like,
but you got your chance. Now it's my turn. What it comes down to, and what has impressed me most about Geno, is not that he's just been doing it for 6 weeks straight, because in week 1 they didn't score in the second half, in week 2 they didn't score at all, but in weeks 3 through 8 the offense has gone through Geno. We've only had one game where we ran the ball more than we threw it. The only time that we had a second game where we ran the ball is because we ran the clock out. So in every game, as much as we have all said we want Pete to run the ball, we've only run the ball once when the game was in contention. When we needed to close the game out, we ran the ball 4 times, got a first down, and then took a knee. That's the only reason why it was like one more rush attempt than pass attempt. So we are a passing team, but the way in which Geno and the offense and Pete is running this offense, it's all going through Geno. The thing that I'm most impressed was the Giants have one of the number 1 or number 2 like blitz percentage. They blitz like 53% of the time. And if you looked at some of the highlights of Geno in that game, he stood tall in that pocket. He trusted his offensive lineman to keep him in play, and he made some huge throws. Those are throws that we would not have seen Russ do unless they were like deep bombs, because it's like, yeah, DK's down there somewhere. I'm just going to throw it down in his general direction. Tyler Lockett's going to catch his moonball because that's what he does. But these were third down conversions. These were, third and longs. These are difficult situations that Geno played in, and he played them so well. I'm so impressed with what Geno is doing. It's beyond my belief. If this is a 1 year, mirage, I think you have to take that risk because, one, you're not signing Geno to a 5-6 year contract where you're like mortgaging your future, you're taking a risk for 1 or 2 years. You have a bunch of draft picks. They don't cost anything anyway. You have to spend the draft somewhere. And yeah, it's a big pill to swallow, but that's what it costs to pay quarterbacks. And because you're not locking yourself to Geno for 5 years at $242 million, I think it's a risk. But I think it's a worthwhile risk to say, like, yeah, we are going to invest in Geno in these 2 years because we think that he's a perfect fit for our system. He's going to play well in the style that we know he can excel, whether it's a system or philosophy issue. That's what we're going to do. And you still have the chance to draft a rookie who can be the heir apparent that doesn't have to start in week 1 because you've got a guy who knows your system, is playing at a high level. And I don't think anything that Geno is doing is a mirage. I don't feel like there's anything that he's doing that all of a sudden says, oh, you know what? Someone's going to shut that down real quick. Oh, you know that 3 tight end set where he does a naked play action, he rolls out and he has the option to run or just like loft it over the linebacker to the tight end? They're going to shut that down eventually because, you know, they have all the linebackers covering all the tight ends every single time. I just don't see, at least not yet, I don't see what it is about our offense that is going to get bottled up because we've seen them persevere.
But you're actually making an argument that you shouldn't franchise him because if the situation is that we've got 3 tight ends out there and you have to cover the 3 tight ends and you can't because now you think it's a run and da-da-da-da-da. Well, is it only Geno Smith that could take advantage of that? And then, like you said, like we're a passing team, but we're not a passing team. We're a passing team because teams don't believe in Geno Smith still. They haven't caught on. And so they're still loading the box. And so the Seahawks are content to say, actually, in those situations, we know Geno can do it. So if you're going to put 7 or 8 in the box, we're going to throw the ball. And they keep doing that because, holy crap, Walker is the truth and Penny was the truth. Not saying that Geno's not.
Sure.
I'm just saying the reason we statistically we look like a passing team, but it's because of the threat of the run. They're blocking the run, so Ben Geno's good enough. That's my point. Like, all of a sudden Shane, like, oh my god, a quarterback will run your system. All of a sudden Shane looks pretty damn good, man.
Yeah, I agree with that. And this is what I'll say to your point. I think Geno is a worthwhile risk to invest in, and I'm saying the franchise tag is like a last ditch effort. Like if you can't strike a deal, you franchise tag him. The goal would be to sign him to like a 2-year deal. You know, he gets a nice bonus, somewhat of a deal for Seattle. But I think that's what you have to look at. That is the baseline for a starting quarterback in the league.
The last thing I'll say on this is like the other reason is like again like. In a completely neutral world, maybe I'm more inclined to do that. But my sense right now is that if you do that, if you do the franchise tag or you do anything more than, I'm guessing 24, can't pretend to have any sources or anything, but like any more than 24 million a year, you're now bidding against yourself. Because although Geno might do this all year long and finishes a top 5 guy, that's not going to be the perception of him in the NFL because the NFL is too conservative and too slow to change. It's like turning, you know, it's how we used to think DK Metcalf would turn. Like they can't turn suddenly with their perceptions.
Right.
There's not a GM out there. Like if Aaron Rodgers like retires after this season, the GM in Green Bay is not thinking, okay, you know, well, we'll just replace him with Geno. Well, I'll bid the Seahawks for Geno, and there we are. We're in the Super Bowl again. Like they're not thinking that way. They're thinking it's smoke and mirrors, and they're going to think it's smoke and mirrors, or they're going to think, oh, only PK could do that because he knows how to motivate people. Or like, but it's you know, once the rawness is gone, he's not a real quarterback. They're not. That's not. In 1 year, Geno Smith is not going to correct all the perceptions of 8 years, in my opinion.
Okay, I think that's fair.
Don't think. So you're bidding against yourself at that point.
But that's how the franchise tag works, though. You have
that's why you don't have to use it.
You're bidding against the floor of what you have to pay for that talent. So to really quickly, I want to kind of put the comparison out there because Matt Castle came in for, I forget who was the injured quarterback. It was for the Chiefs. He came in. He came in for Tom Brady.
For Brady. Right, for Brady.
And he had a great year, and this is the contract that Matt Castle turned that into. So he had that one great year, and he signed a 6-year, $63 million contract. And that was back in 2009. So we're talking about 13 plus years ago. He averaged $10 million a year.
But it's not really the same because, again, like Geno Smith has built up 9 years of building her up as a backup and a fringe backup. Matt Castle was a good backup.
Right. But I think you could also look at what Geno has done in the time that he's with Seattle, where he played well. No? You don't?
Did he play well last year? Like,
I thought he played well.
When Geno Smith was put in the comparable situation, like Matt Castle came in and still the Patriots still had a winning record, and I think that was the one year they missed the playoffs, but they still had a winning record. Right. Geno Smith came in and we did not have a winning record with him. We were 1-2, and he looked deer in the headlights at times. He looked best in the game he wasn't supposed to play in. Then the games he was named the starter, he didn't look that good.
I mean, he lost 2 of those games, and he had the ball in his hands to win it at the end. I don't think that means that he played bad.
I'm just saying. I mean, like, I again, it's not me. Like, I'm you're preaching a bit to the choir. Like, I think he's a good quarterback. I admit it. I'm just saying.
But there's a difference between paying a good quarterback and actually paying the quarterback. I think that's where we're.
It's perception. Does the NFL? Like, they're talking about Geno, but do they really? Is there a GM out there willing to put his job on the line? That's what it comes down to.
Yeah,
is there a GM out there willing to put his job on the line?
There is 100%. There's a GM out there willing to pay Geno money, more so than the Seahawks.
I tend to doubt that, but we'll see. Well, hopefully we won't see.
Every year we see terrible contracts being handed out, and if you look at, like, historically, free agency, you get a terrible return on your investment. It's only people that you pay in the second and third wave of free agency do you get the deals where their production outweighs their salary. It's so rare to see a first wave free agent who lands a huge contract and is actually successful. That's the rarity.
So you're saying signing Geno in the first wave would be a bad signing?
Well, no, because the question was, is there a GM that's willing to pay him money? And I'm saying there is, yes.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully not, but hopefully we take care of it before it happens. But
that's extending Geno. All right, let's move on to topic number 4. This is the Arizona Cardinals. So we faced this team 3 weeks ago. We faced them again. This was the last time we are going to play in Phoenix. So topic number 4, I believe this is for Zeb. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Zeb, would a loss remove all the promise the Seahawks have shown in the last 3 weeks? DeAndre Hopkins is back. Cardinals need a big win in order to stay in contention. They've had a couple of rough losses. Seattle trounced them quite well in their previous matchup. Would a loss hurt Seattle and all the momentum that they've built?
Not necessarily. I mean, look, a 3-game win streak and winning 4 out of the last 5 to put us in first place in the division is awesome. It's great, but like I said earlier, we're not going to run the table, and a loss on the road against a division rival, a team they have their moments. They can be good. They have some guys, like you said. Hopkins is back. They still have J.J. Watt. They still have Connor, and if Connor can't go, they still have Eno Benjamin. Those are playmakers. They got Zach Ertz. If the Seahawks go down there and lose the game, to me, it's not the end of the world. It's not what I want, I think we're going to go down there and win, but these things happen. You don't win every game. That just doesn't happen. And while, like I said, the 3-game win streak is great, there's you lose games in the NFL. And Oftentimes they're division games, and oftentimes they're on the road. Blah 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 blah. There's all sorts of reasons why. I'm okay with it. It's more about when we do lose the next game, how they respond. Do they come back and make up for that? You know, don't let it get to you. We're going to lose some games. It's much more important that we come back and prove that we're still a winning team afterwards. So we're not going to lose this weekend, but if we do, it's not the end of the world.
Ross, what about you? What impact do you think this game has? Where could a loss to the Cardinals, who have a lot to play for, they're 3-5, they really need a win to kind of stay in the conversation, because if they lose to Seattle, they'll be 0-2 versus Seattle, they'll be 3-6 at the halfway point, and they're going to have 3 teams ahead of them, and they're not going to own a lot of tiebreakers.
I mean, it would depend on the manner of losing. There's always heartbreakers, but I really doubt it would have. I mean, there's always narratives. Even those narratives, I sometimes wonder if they're really true. I doubt it would have like a lasting effect. You know, like everybody knows, like you sometimes lose a game. Don't really like having to talk about the fact that we might lose. There's a lot of that. You know, once you start talking about the possibility of losing, you already have. But it's not us on the field, so I guess it's okay. I just don't think it would have much of an effect. I think Pete Carroll knows how to recoup people. I think the team knows, you're like Zeb said, we're not going to run the table realistically, but that would be amazing. So I just don't know. And, you know, like, things can look so impactful week to week, and you think there's things you can't come back from. But actually, the fact is, a week later, it's a whole new game. And things can go over again. Like, you got to have a short memory and play over again. A couple of weeks ago, as an example, since we love to talk about Russ and stuff like that these days, and it'll probably take 1.5 years for our obsession to end. But Russ lost the game, in a sense, for the Broncos when he didn't see KJ Hamler, open, right? And KJ Hamler threw a fit, and everybody saw it. Like, this helmet off, banging the thing, and people were like, there's no coming back from that. How are those guys even going to play together? You can't go to war with your brother when you're that mad at him. And Hamler was obviously pissed off at Russ and just frustrated beyond belief. But then, this past Sunday, Russ hits him with a 47-yarder that brings him into range, and they, brings him close, and they win the game because of that. And afterwards, when Russ is doing his interviews, Hamler's in there, in love with Russ. Every week is different. Every week is its own story, and sometimes there's a thing such as momentum, but I don't think negative momentum is much of a threat in this game for Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd like to believe that if you lose one game, it's not the end of the world. It's kind of like how you lose that makes the impact.
That's definitely true.
I think the concern is still going to be it's a division rival. These games have always been kind of ugly. Seattle has a really, really weird track record with Arizona, no matter who the coach is. But what I think it comes down to is, what is Kyler Murray? Is Kyler Murray the guy you want throwing the ball 40 times a game? Because that's what he's currently averaging. His high for the season is 44 attempts, 49 attempts, and 58 passing attempts. And his record in those games is 1-2. So it's not like a great opportunity if Kyler Murray is just throwing the ball that many times. And I think if I were a Cardinal fan, I would be really worried about that, and the fact that they have so many injuries at the running back and they're not really interested in running the ball, I think does make Kyler a little bit more one-dimensional, which is something that Pete really, really likes. He likes it when he knows that they're not going to run, because it makes the game easier to control. But I think with every division game, especially with the fact that Seattle and all the teams in the NFC West were kind of like a rock, paper, scissors There's a team that's good against that team. That team's good against this other team. That team's good against the third team. And there's one team that everyone seems to just be like 50-50 with. And I feel like that's the Cardinals. The Cardinals are like everyone's wild card. Seattle beats San Francisco. San Francisco beats the Rams, and the Rams beat Seattle. That's kind of been the triangle, and the Cardinals are just like, yeah, we're just going to kind of get in here and we're going to like kind of just muck things up here and there, but never enough to be consistently thought of as like, oh yeah, this is the team we have to worry about. So we'll see. I think this is going to be a good matchup for Seattle, just like we thought Chargers were going to be a good matchup and the Giants were going to be a good matchup. If they get this win, if they can get to 6-3 at the halfway point, I think that will bode really well, because it goes back to what we talked about in topic number 1. Each win that you stack from here on out adds to the confidence, adds to their projection of making the playoffs in what everyone considered to be a down year, and it just speaks to the promise of Pete Carroll and this team and the culture that he has been able to build. So I'm maybe less worried about the Cardinals and more worried about Seahawks not playing to this consistent level that we've seen these past 3 weeks. If that makes sense.
It does. It's more about us than it is about them.
Yeah, and I'm excited for that, because the thing is, I'm excited for a lot of the matchups. I'm excited to see Tariq Woolen against a DeAndre Hopkins. I think that's going to be a really, really fun matchup.
If they let it happen.
I mean, it's also like if they throw to him. I mean, that's what we've seen. Like, teams are not throwing to Tariq's side very often anymore.
Nope.
I mean, yeah, he kind of Richard Sherman'd them last week.
Yeah, I think he was thrown to like what, twice in the last game.
Yeah. The rookie cornerback, 5th round rookie cornerback in his 8th game, and you're going to target him twice.
Yeah. Final thoughts on the Arizona Cardinals.
Get ready to watch some Waggles. That's the thing.
All right. Well, it is now time for some predictions. As always, we've got a few that we're going to have. And Zeb, I'll hit you up first. Final score, Seahawks at the Cardinals.
Seahawks 31, Cardinals 17.
Ooh, that's a good win. I think the point spread right now is pretty... I want to say it's like... Yeah, it's gone down. It's -2 Arizona. I think it started a little bit higher than that.
Let them have it.
Yeah. Ross, final score?
24-10.
24-10. You guys are all double digits. You guys are so confident. I'm gonna think it's a little bit closer. I'm gonna go 24-21 Seahawks. I think Seahawks, it will be just like the previous game. They're going to have a lead, and they're going to be able to kind of like just sit back. Cardinals will make a last-ditch effort, but they'll come up short. 24-21 Seattle. Zeb, who's going to have the most rushing yards? Is it going to be a Kyler Murray? Is it going to be a Kenneth Walker? Is it going to be an Eno Benjamin? Is it going to be a Geno Smith?
Penny. Kenny.
Oh, Kenny.
Kenny and his crutches.
Ross, who you have for the most rushing yards?
Kyler.
Kyler?
Yeah.
I am going to go with Kenneth Walker. The Cardinals do not have a very strong run defense, and I'm hoping this is a game where we can get K9 a lot more touches and he could just, rip a few off, because I feel like he was so close so many times in that Giants game. They just got him at the last second. His touchdown run was great. I did not expect him to score on that play, but I think that this is a game where I think he can run really, really well. Zeb, who's going to have the most receiving yards? Is it going to be a DeAndre Hopkins, a DK Metcalf, a Tyler Lockett, a Zach Ertz, or the Seattle tight ends as a group?
You know what? Just for the sake of positive thinking, I'm going to say Metcalf.
Nice, I like that. Ross, who you got? Lockett?
I feel like Lockett's due for a big game.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I forgot to mention in the Extend Geno Now is like he had 2 drop touchdowns. Like his day could have been a whole lot better and would have been a bigger blowout if they had caught those. I'm going to say DeAndre Hopkins. I think they're going to try and move him around, and he's getting targeted a ton. I think he had like 12 for 13 catches for targets last week, so I think they're going to feed him the ball as their biggest weapon. Final prediction of the night: over/under of injuries caused by the field 1.5. Zeb, what do you have?
Oh God, over, but it's going to be there, guys.
I'm okay with that. Ross, what do you have? Over/under injuries caused by the field 1.5.
I'm just going to try to think positive and go under.
I want to be positive, but I hate that field so much. It's not even. I don't even understand why it is, because it's a grass field. Like everyone's saying, grass is supposed to be the best, but that field, for whatever reason, just seems to be terrible. So, I want to be positive, but I think it's gonna be 1.5. Hopefully, it's just like some weird thing. It's like a trainer on the sideline, and one of the refs gets like hit. That's where the injuries come from, and it's not a player.
I think it's going to be exactly 1.5.
Gonna be some little kid out there on the sidelines. That's the half.
Well, or Kyler.
Okay, nice. And gentlemen, those are our predictions for the evening. Final thoughts before we get to some shout-outs.
I'm excited, man. Bring it on.
Very excited. Ross, final thoughts? Or would you like to go straight into some shout-outs?
Let's do some shout-outs.
Very well. Gentlemen, have at it.
Shout out to Travis Homer. Comes back, and look at our special teams turnaround.
My guy, Homer.
He had an epic Halloween costume entering the field, too, if you didn't see that.
I did not.
Shout out to Birdfinger for the chat, chiming in. Hopefully he was able to stay up late and catch a lot of it. Shout out to Zeb and Ross for always being here and hosting and having some fun. Shout out to Geno for just having a great year. We are the Hawkscast.net podcast. Check us out on the website. Go find us on Twitter at Seahawks Podcast or Seahawks Forum. We're excited for this game. We hope to see you online. Until then, we wish you a Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Hawks.